Warning: some contents may be disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. I guess you could trace my current situation back to two factors: my New Year's resolution and my weakness to aggressive marketing. It started this Christmas that I returned home after a long time. It was nice to see my family after being abroad and constantly on the road working. Unfortunately, my employment makes me travel a lot. You see, I'm a public relations manager for a big company, and this forces me to be in all kinds of different places, just all over the world. Of course, I don't complain, and traveling is always a beautiful experience. But you can get homesick pretty easily. Now, having traveled pretty much everywhere this year, I managed to attend all sorts of events, mainly musical concerts, from bands that very rarely visit my home place. From Muse to Dream Theater to my childhood love, which was Manowar, and then back to rock music with Sum 41. I am sharing these moments because they were what flared up my old passion, the love I used to have for playing music myself. After spending the first few holiday nights at my parents' place, I got to their basement and rediscovered my old electric guitar and my amplifier that I had almost forgotten there for more than 6 years. You can imagine that the playing was very clumsy, but I managed to pull out some chords and basic melodies. My job had made me forget about music, but now that I have found my passion again, I vowed not to lose it again. It was honestly a wholesome moment when I managed to relearn some old songs and play them while singing out with the family like we did back when I was just a kid. Unfortunately, reality hits you no matter what you do. And while preparing for my flight home, I did pack my guitar and a small practice amp that I had just bought, but I knew I wouldn't play with them that much. Next week, I would have to travel again, and my schedule would be really busy, so to be realistic, I would very rarely even touch the guitar. But nevertheless, I had started looking for some guitar gear, and since Google is smarter than me, while I was doing my research, it started bombarding me with ads about small portable instruments that you could easily learn. And normally, I just ditch such kinds of ads. But this time, they looked interesting. A small instrument that didn't need extensive practicing and that I could play with any time? This actually sounded practical and interesting, and the prices weren't too shabby either. I started by getting a kalimba that I saw on Facebook. My order arrived around 2 weeks after I made it, but of course, with all my traveling, I got to actually unbox it much later than planned. It was definitely as hype-worthy as advertised, but it definitely was fun. Of course, the 2 hours of practice and you're going to master it was a total bullcrap, but I used my knowledge in music theory and became pretty good at it soon. I actually took it to my next trip and managed to play with it during the short time that I was in the hotel. After that, I got hooked. I decided to make a small collection from all the pop-up ads that I was getting on my social media. Tongue drums, flutes, mini practice guitars, and mini saxophones, you name it. It was quite a fun hobby to have, and my friends were impressed by all these instruments, especially the more exotic ones. I have to be honest though, I was also proud with all the toys that I had accumulated. In the back of my mind, I kind of thought I was hoarding on useless stuff, but in general, I was very pleased that I had restarted to play music, and with a bit of effort, I managed to keep my collection tactful and neat. It was nice when I was packing for work trips now. After gathering the necessary clothes and items, I would briefly go through my instruments and pick which one I would love to play more this week. Honestly, it was like a child selecting the toys that it wanted to get for a vacation with its parents. Eventually, however, as it always happens with collectors, I run out of things to collect. It wasn't that there were no more instruments for me to buy, but basically, everything I could get was a different version of the same thing. I might be an impulsive buyer, but I still had the understanding to not get random stuff just to get my fix. I did want, however, to find some other instrument that I might have missed. From pop-up ads, I turned to more proactive ways and started to search myself. I got a few things that I had never ever seen before, but eventually these ran out as well. And I was pretty certain that I had gathered all there was. But something in me still wanted to search for something so exotic that was just not sold commercially. A limited edition musical instrument just for the selected few. I had a stupid idea that seemed so silly that I was not even daring to tell somebody else. They would laugh at my naivety. I kinda wish I had done so now. Me becoming the laughing stock of my peers would perhaps be enough to stop me from actually following my stupidity. I knew that in the dark web one can find supposedly anything. Although I had never navigated it myself, I always thought that this anything was just referring to drugs, snuff films, excessive violent scenes, and other deranged projections of the human psyche. I really didn't believe you would find simple things, such as musical instruments, in a place like that. For me, music has always been about harmony and artistic expression, with the occasional heavy metal inner turbulent shakedown. What did those have to do with murdered puppies and live-streamed awful scenes? In the end, however, I indulged in my curiosity. I started navigating the dark web. At first, it was completely pointless as I had no idea what I was doing. But I persevered, and in the end, I started understanding how to work around the complexity of the web. At first, I got normal stuff, good guitars, basses, and others, in an awfully cheap price, which made me question their authenticity. But in time, things got progressively disturbing. I visited websites that said that they had traditional string instruments with animal intestines instead of PVC strings, exactly as they were meant to be played from the start, as one of them claimed. I don't know how PETA would react to such. One of them even claimed to use strings made from humans as they produce a warmer tone with much more sustain. I didn't really believe this crap, but it was bizarre. And from strings to percussion, I can't really describe how many websites advertise using real skins of animals or humans as the drum surface. Some even claim to be utilizing a setup of wood and bones for the rest of the instrument. I was ready to close the browser software for good when I got a pop-up. The irony struck me hard. It had started with pop-up ads, and now, after so long, I got another one, in a place that a few months ago I wouldn't even be thinking of visiting. It was an ocarina. That was almost enough to turn me down already. Don't get me wrong, I love the ocarina sound, but I have gotten many myself already over the past few months, so I was almost ready to close the ad and then go to bed, but I decided to read the rest of it just because. "Not your typical ocarina," said the ad. "Yeah, right. I've heard this before. It's like all marketing specialists graduated from the same school." "This ocarina has been handcrafted just for you, and we make one unique instrument with exactly the tone you would desire. There never was or never will be another instrument like this produced ever again. We take pride in making one instrument for every customer." Interesting. I had no idea how they would do that, so my skepticism kept me from going to the purchase window still. Have you ever owned an instrument that you cannot hear, but you can feel with every single molecule of your body? Well, try us. The Infusion Ocarina is truly a work of art, specially made for you, the most demanding musician. 30-day window return policy, no questions asked. Are you ready to take your music to the next level? Well, shit. That was intriguing, I cannot deny. And it was just $50. So, worst case scenario, I would just throw it away or return it. No big deal. It wouldn't be the first time anyway. I did check to see if that too was made from any freaky material, and I was pleased to see that it was just made from maple and ebony. I moved on to the customize and purchase option. There, I had to laugh. There were no questions about what kind of sound I liked or what other preferences I had. It just asked for a few general questions, but not anything too personal. It was more like making a sketch of my character than getting my preference. I really didn't think their claims were legit at this point, but I continued anyways. The last part was the mailing window, and it was the strangest thing so far. The thing would arrive in approximately 2 weeks, during which time I would be on another job trip in Netherlands. Therefore, I gave the address of my local post office so that I would receive the parcel after coming home. And the moment that I clicked on the location I wanted, the system changed it automatically. The address given was the address of my hotel in Netherlands. What the hell? How was that even possible? I tried adding the delivery address that I wanted again, and it switched back by itself. This was mesmerizing, and honestly, scary. I had the bright idea of changing the preferred delivery date to a day that I would be home, and this time, my address was not messed up with. I was really scared that the retailer apparently knew personal info that I had never given, and at this moment, I really wanted to just stop everything and never get in that site again. But I figured out that, since they already knew that much about me, I might as well order. And now, I really wanted to know how deep the rabbit hole was, and so I purchased it. I remember while pressing the confirm button that I was reading reviews from other customers. You have to get this. It's a lifetime experience. My life was changed forever. Any other music is simply inferior. I was now so curious about that mysterious thing that I couldn't wait. I opted for the fastest delivery date, and sure enough, I received the parcel a few weeks later from the receptionist of my hotel in Netherlands. Back in my room, I opened the package. The ocarina was colored partially light brown and partially black, basically the colors of the woodwork used. When I turned it around, however, I read the capitals JM written in dark red color with calligraphic letters. My initials. Why were they written on it? I had never given my real name. How much did those people know about me anyway? I should have never played that damn thing. But I almost felt like I wasn't controlling my body as I was bringing the ocarina to my mouth, and I played the first note. I could hear nothing with my ears. However, I felt chills throughout my entire body. It was like the sound was coming from within me, and I could only listen to it in my head. It felt like my soul was pulsating instead of the air, producing an otherworldly soundless tune. I had to keep playing. I already knew how to play an ocarina, and the infusion was tuned like a normal one. I played songs that I had learned before, but it felt like I was hearing them for the first time. It was the most melodic thing that I have ever heard, but it was also terrifying. It felt like I was running through all human emotions at the same time. I was happy, I was scared, depressed, and shocked at the same time. All the sounds had faded around me, and it seemed like I had my heartbeat and my blood pulse for percussion, perfectly in tune with my ocarina. I had never felt like this before, experiencing every emotion that I have ever had in one go. I finished my last song, tears streaming down my face. I heard a car passing by, and the normal sound it makes sounded like a cacophony of a million terrible things. I cringed so hard at the noise, then I collapsed. When I woke up, I realized that any kind of sound seemed false to me. I tried playing with a kalimba that I had with me. It sounded awfully out of tune, and the normally soothing tunes were now all the wrong sounds. Even my own voice echoed like a banshee's in my ear. I looked at the ocarina. It was on the floor where it had fallen after I had faded out. I picked it up and hesitantly played it again. The feelings overwhelmed me again, like they had done before. It was the only beautiful sound in the whole world. That night, I didn't sleep well. I was ravaged by nightmares of dark figures haunting me and mocking me. In fact, since that fateful day, I haven't been able to sleep in peace. I've been having constant nightmares since then, and they get worse by the night. My life hasn't been going better as well. I am constantly tired by the loss of sleep, and the worst thing is that I grew to hate every single sound in the world. I tried getting back to my beloved guitar back home. It was so terrible that I honestly felt that the noise it made as I was breaking it into pieces was almost better. Same thing with all the other instruments. Pieces of junk, all of them. I tried to find comfort in the arms of my beloved girlfriend, but she wouldn't understand why I didn't want to listen to a word she said. She tried to comfort me, but her annoying voice was unbearable now. But it was actually a voice which used to make me smile every morning when I woke up. I sent her away, telling her that if she didn't shut up, I would go insane. And she left me, wiping tears uncontrollably and cursing me loudly as I was covering my ears to avoid the noise. The sleep deprivation was getting to me. I started mixing the creatures that I was seeing in my dreams with reality. I started believing they were real and were drawn to me by the tunes of my ocarina. And for some reason, this makes so much sense when I think about it. Honestly, I hope they are, so that I will get to stop suffering from this awful, noisy, and out-of-tune world. My only happiness came from playing the ocarina, and while I was at it, all my demons would subside, and all the outer sounds would stay silent. My entire existence was focused into my art. I would play it until I had no breath left, and then collapse on my bed, where legions of unspeakable things would then haunt me, until I eventually woke up, drenched in sweat. I did manage to find a small comfort, however. In a desperate move, I pressed 2 pencils deep in my ears, destroying my eardrums forever. The pain was unbearable, and I was screaming like a wounded monster. But finally, everything went silent. After I called the ambulance, I remember smiling, since I was finally in total silence. The pain was excruciating, but at least it was quiet. And after my admission to the hospital, I was brought for psychiatric evaluation. Fortunately, I was able to go home and was prescribed some medication. I accepted it, although I knew already that it wouldn't work. And since then, I've stayed home. I am permanently deaf now, but that's the least of my problems. The drugs are of course not working, and the demons in my head are more real than ever before. And I live every day in fear and pain. Each morning is worse than the previous, and I don't know how much time I have before I go completely insane. The only thing I have left is my ocarina. I am playing it from dawn to dusk. It keeps the fear away and helps me find some serenity. Some will argue that this was the cause of my fall, but when I play it, the world truly seems like a better place. All in all, despite some minor inconveniences that come with this instrument, the end result is the most life-changing experience that you've ever experienced. There is nothing quite like it. I strongly recommend you get one of those. It has truly made me happy. I have always found creepy, mysterious things fascinating. I always have, even as a kid. My parents used to put me to bed by telling me scary stories. Scary stories about monsters, vampires, witches, and ghouls. And I like to refer to these kinds of stories as old school scary stories. These are nothing like the stories you hear about nowadays with murderers and kidnappers. Unlike vampires and monsters, murderers and kidnappers are actually real, making it more frightening. Old school scary stories never scared me that much because I knew that none of those were real. It was fake. It was all fake. After all, there's no point in being scared of things that aren't real, right? Well, that's initially what I told myself whenever I would get scared. However, I had no idea what lay in store for me as I got older. I'm currently 20 years old, and I live alone just outside of town in a tiny apartment. I'm a student with a part-time job, so a tiny apartment is sadly all I can afford. And my best friend Emily comes to visit me sometimes. We have been best friends since middle school. Emily and I had decided to have a sleepover at my place this weekend. Emily was going to sleep on an air mattress while I took the bed. And the days leading up to the weekend consisted of studying, working, and sleeping. And when Friday finally showed up, I got excited. I waited until Emily was done working her shift, and then she came over to my apartment. It was around 8 p.m. when she turned up. We had something to eat and sat down to watch a movie. When the movie was done, the clock struck 11 p.m. Emily went to the bathroom while I started tidying up a bit. But my phone suddenly vibrated. I didn't check it at first because I thought nothing of it. But little did I know, that would be the biggest mistake of my life. After I was done tidying up, I realized that Emily had spent an unusual amount of time inside the bathroom. I grew a little concerned about her absence, but I quickly shoved it away, reassuring myself that she was probably just fixing her makeup or something. I sat down on the couch and checked my phone. It was a snap from Emily. She had sent me a picture. That's odd, I thought to myself. The concerned feeling I had a moment ago came back stronger. I tried reassuring myself again. Maybe she had sent me a snap to show me that she was fine. I opened the snap. I screamed, and I was horrified. How could this have happened? I was right here. Tears started streaming down my face. I was sitting on the couch shaking like a chihuahua. The snap contained a picture of an unconscious Emily with the words, "Looks like your friend needed a timeout." I rushed to the bathroom as quickly as possible. That was probably a dumb decision, but at that point, I didn't even care because I had to help Emily. And when I opened the bathroom door, there was no sign of anyone. There wasn't even a sign of a break-in or an open window or nothing. How on earth could someone have broken into my home? I had been in the apartment all day, and I started panicking. I had to call the police, and I pulled out my phone and dialed the emergency number. A policeman picked up the phone. "Hello, what's your emergency?" And I answered hurriedly. Hello, my name is Mia Cavanaugh. I live at 34 Park Hill Avenue. My friend Emily Fieldman has gone missing. You need to hurry, please." And the policeman on the other line replied, "Okay, we'll be there right away." I hung up the phone and sat down on the couch. My phone vibrated again. I knew I had to look, but I didn't want to. I picked up the phone and saw another snap from Emily. I opened it. It was a picture of a terrified Emily with a knife held to her throat and a person with a black mask standing behind her. On the picture it read, "Be careful what you say to the police, or this girl gets it." I tried to study the background, but I couldn't make out anything. It was all black behind them, and the picture had been taken with a blitz showing only Emily and the other person in the mask. From the looks of it, the person in the mask seemed to be a man. Regardless, how did they know that I had spoken to the police literally seconds after I hung up the phone? Well, at least I had evidence now because of the picture they had sent me. But a thought quickly appeared in my head. If they knew that I had spoken to the police, then they would have found out if I had shown the police this picture. And if they had found out about it, then they would kill Emily. I had to find the perpetrators on my own, or else I'm afraid Emily was going to die. The police showed up about 10 minutes after our phone call. I opened the door and greeted them, and I knew I had to lie to them, so I said, "It was a false emergency. Emily had to go to the store without me knowing. I am terribly sorry." The police I had talked to on the phone looked stern and replied, "Are you sure? Because if that's the case, you have a risk of facing a $1,000 fine or ending up in prison." I answered, "Yeah, I'm sure. I am so sorry. I really did think she was gone." The policeman sighed and said, "Well, you sounded pretty concerned on the phone, so we believe you. We'll let you off with a warning this time, but if it happens again, you'll be charged with a $1,000 fine. Worst case scenario, there's a possibility of you ending up in jail, so please be careful when you're calling us for emergencies." I then replied, "Yes, absolutely, it won't happen again. Goodbye." The policeman answered, "Goodbye, have a safe night and take care of yourselves." The police then left and I closed the door. My phone vibrated again. I knew who it was immediately. I looked at it. A snap from Emily, and I opened it. There was a picture of Emily tied up in a chair. Her eyes were red and puffy like she had been crying a lot. And the text on the picture read, "Good job, love. We'll reward you for your cooperation." I sighed and thought, what reward are they talking about? I'm not even sure if I wanted a reward. My phone vibrated again. Another snap from Emily. This time, it was a picture of a warehouse with some cars in it with a text saying, "This is your first clue as to where Emily is hiding." The picture that I had got was from a warehouse, but it was dark and it was hard to make out where it was. I suddenly spotted some cars lined up in the far back, and those cars looked really familiar. That's when a thought popped into my head. Of course, they're in the abandoned warehouse for cars. That used to be me and Emily's hangout spot when we needed a break from the world. And I knew what I had to do. I drove my car to the old warehouse and parked it outside the building. I went in, but nothing. The sun had gone down, so naturally, the warehouse was pitch black. The only sound that could be heard was my footsteps as I tried to find my way in the darkness. And I took out my phone and turned on the flashlight. And I tried to find a light switch, but I had no luck. I walked further in and discovered a door. I opened it, and on the left side of the door on the wall was a light switch. I flicked the switch, but there was no light. Of course, I thought to myself. This place is abandoned. There's no electricity here. And in the middle of the room was a chair. I approached the chair cautiously. I was afraid someone was going to jump out of the darkness and then kidnap me too, but nothing happened. I looked at the chair and realized that this had been the chair that Emily was tied to, but she wasn't there. "Hello?" I said, getting nervous. "I did what you asked me to. Now, where's Emily?" But to my dismay, no one answered. My eyes then fell upon the cars that were lined up, and I spotted a note hanging on the windshield. I made my way to the cars and took the note. It read, "Here's your second clue." I turned the note around, but there was nothing there. And I looked up trying to spot something, but the room only held a chair and the cars. My phone vibrated. I took it out knowing who it was. Another snap from Emily. I opened it to be faced with a tree. Why in the world would it be of a tree? I studied the background as well as the tree, and that's when I realized it. That was the tree that Emily and I had carved into the wood that we would be best friends forever. I recognized that one of the branches had grown in an odd way, but that's what made it special. That's what made me and Emily choose that tree. I just really wish that I was right and not that the kidnappers had taken a picture of just another tree. I had to try for Emily's sake. I drove to where the forest was and then parked it up in the parking lot by the entrance to the woods. I got out and started to walk up that all too familiar path. While walking further into the forest, a flashback suddenly hit me. A flashback from the first time Emily and I walked here together. Some boys in our class chased us all the way up here because they wanted to beat us up. So we ran from them and hid in the woods. And that's when we decided that we would be best friends forever. After walking for a while, I had to turn away from the path and head into the thick forest, where there was no path to guide me anymore. This walk took longer than I had remembered. Because of everything that had happened, it felt like 1 minute lasted for 20 minutes. I started to pray to God to keep Emily safe and that I would find her in time. And to be quite honest, I wasn't really a Christian, but I was just so desperate. It was better to be safe than sorry, so I started to run because I wanted to spend as less time as possible. I got there soon enough after my little run, but there was nobody there. I walked up to the tree and I found the carving. Our carving. E plus M equals BFF. Looking at it, I smiled, remembering the good times. I traced my finger alongside the E in the carving. And that's when my emotions got the best of me. I started to cry. I hugged the tree, wishing it was Emily who stood in my arms and not the tree. And after I had cried a whole lot, I had to start looking for clues. I stopped hugging the tree and I began my hunt. After a little while with no luck, my phone vibrated again. Yet another snap from Emily. I pulled out my phone and opened the snap. I could tell that the picture was taken in our schoolyard, in the place where Emily and I first met each other. I couldn't see Emily in the picture though, and that freaked me out. I placed my phone in my pocket and I had to get there as fast as I could, so I ran down to my car and then I drove off. I parked my car in the school's parking lot and then I got out. I had to find Emily. It was the only thing on my mind right now. I started walking down the schoolyard. I couldn't see anything. My head turned to the side. And that's when I spotted the place, which was where the picture was taken. My first encounter with Emily. And all the memories came flooding back. The same old tiny shed with the same old tree beside it. I walked towards it. I had a feeling that I would find my next clue. Or better yet, Emily in there. And as I got closer, I noticed someone had left the door to the shed ajar. I opened the door to the shed and looked inside. It was dark, but the room was illuminated by the moon. There was a desk and a chair standing in the middle of the room. I walked to the desk and found a note. The note read, "Final destination is Emily's place. Can you reach us in time?" I waited for the distinctive sound of the Snapchat notification. Nothing happened. I couldn't stand here all night, so I ran back to my car and then sped off towards Emily's place. I sat the whole trip just hoping that Emily was okay, and I couldn't think of anything else. I reached Emily's place as fast as I could and I ran inside. There was nobody there. I admit that maybe barging into Emily's home, like I just did, wasn't the greatest idea. But I was desperate. I tried to call out Emily's name, but no one answered. I searched downstairs for her, but to no avail. I went upstairs, but could not see anything. And her room was the last room that I checked. She had to be there. Of course. Why did I not look in there at first? I am so stupid, I thought to myself while opening the door. And what greeted me next horrified me. Emily's dead body lay on the floor. I ran over to her and held her limp body in my arms. I started sobbing. I couldn't believe it. How could this happen? I hugged her even though I knew she wouldn't hug me back. And I sat there for what felt like an eternity, hugging her tight, like I would never let her go. I had lost my dearest best friend, the one who was always there for me, the one who knew more about me than anyone else. I spotted her computer while I sat hugging her. It was turned on. I lay Emily gently down on the ground again, and I went to investigate it. When I got to her computer, I saw that it was logged into the dark web. Did she use the dark web? A chat was opened where I could see that she had been talking to a hacker who threatened her. I crossed out the page because it was just too menacing to watch. When the page disappeared, I found some videos of me on her computer. I pressed play on one of them, and it showed me while I looked for her in my apartment. There was another video of me when I was at the warehouse, and another one of me when I was in the woods hugging the tree. They filmed me while I searched for Emily, and that's how they knew when to send me snaps. I looked up and found screenshots of Emily and I's chat, the times when we talked about the places that I had been to tonight, like the tree and the place we first met. That's how they knew that these places meant something to us. "What is this?" I said to myself, overwhelmed with everything that I was seeing. My phone vibrated suddenly. I took it out and I looked at it. Another snap from Emily. My heart started to beat faster, and a tear fell from my eye. I got so scared. I knew who it was. I plucked up what was left of my courage once again, and I opened it. It was a picture of me from behind. And I suddenly heard Emily's closet door creak open. I whipped my head around and gasped. It couldn't be. And here are the top comments for my last video. And here's the riddle for this video. Hello everyone, it's your creepy sister here. Thank you so much for watching the video. I really appreciate each and every one of you. But I would also like to thank my amazing patrons, my top tippers, and my dearest channel members. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it with all of my heart. If you want to support the channel further, you could also choose to become a patron, a tipper, or a channel member. But remember, it's appreciated, but never a requirement. I would also like to announce that we have merch now. The link is in the description of the video, along with all my other social media links, like my Discord server, Twitter, Instagram, and others. You can connect with me and send your stories there. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and comments are highly appreciated. And remember, your fear feeds me.